The 644th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MMA to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Heidi Ho DeGenerinos, welcome to episode 644 of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Going out to one of our Discord friends, Zemo KC. He's always in there keeping it lively and talking MMA. So thank you, Zemo KC, and all the rest of our friends in the Discord. That would be sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord if you haven't gotten in there yet. And of course, YouTube, you can hit us up there as well. Make sure you subscribe. Numbers keep going up, but we're not at 1,000 yet. That's our goal right now. So we're going to keep bugging you until we get to 1,000. So if you want me to stop bugging you, just hit subscribe, okay? And sneak and do your spouse's phone and whoever else, children's, whoever else you have access to their devices. Thank you for coming to the show. I barely have access to my devices here, but I'm going to try to make it through another episode. We got Cage Warriors 176. I'm Jeff Chalks Fox. I will be one of your hosts here driving the ship. Cage Warriors is going down this coming Saturday, noon Eastern, so it won't interfere with your UFC viewing. So we got that for you today. And then if you want to know the rest of our schedule, tomorrow will be Octagon. We haven't done Octagon for a while, so they are back and we're going to cover it. And then Tuesday, Gumby insisted.
I can't believe I picked it.
He picked Bellator, but he called it Bellator Challengers. So he dissed them, even though it's Bellator Champions. He said, we're going to do Bellator Challengers. So there you go. Even when you're trying to be nice to them, you're not nice to them. So they actually have a map with names that we know on it, Gumby. So we should cover it on Tuesday.
Yeah, I was trying to weed between that, ONE FC, and for everybody who wishes we could do them all, we wish we could do them all too. We've got a limited capacity, both in terms of our time and our boss's finances, to bring you guys shows. So thank you for always wanting more. But yeah, I debated ONE FC. There's an Aries card this week. And then I just looked at the Bellator card and I'm like, they actually put enough people on there where I could break it down. It was just like, they did enough. Don't you love when they just do enough? That might be Bellator's motto now, especially now that PFL's bottom. Like, just do enough. But it's still a card.
That sounds good enough to me. And if you want more Bellator, make sure you watch and listen to that episode more than you do all the others. And we'll have to. I'll show you the numbers.
Doing them.
He's fought against the number. He's pushed back against the numbers in the past. But if you guys keep getting those numbers up there, Gummy won't be able to refuse. We're doing Cage Warriors. You like doing Cage Warriors though, so no pushback for this here event, Cage Warriors 176. Thoughts on the card before we jump into it? We got a title fight in the main event, and we got some tournament fights, right?
Yeah, so they're back with the Prize Fighter One Night Tournament, which is exciting. If you watched the first one, it was a lot of fun to watch. Obviously, we won't wind up breaking down what I will believe will be the co-main event in this, because the co-main event will be the two Prize Fighter ones. It's again one of those like kind of Cage Warrior cards. It seems like they're making them too big now. Yeah. I don't mean to hate on them because, like, I guess, just maybe don't watch the fights if you don't want them all. But like, they're kind of a little bit too big because I think they're just trying to squeeze as many. This one's in Scotland, right? Glasgow.
Yes, Glasgow.
Yeah, so I think they're just trying to squeeze as many Scottish fighters as they can on to sell at a big arena, which is, I mean, I guess nice to do so, but. Yeah, like the 5 fights we picked, I'm interested in the Prize Fighter tournament. The 2 fights on the top have got interesting fighters in them. And then, as always, got the lightning round for you with a smattering of other value picks as well.
What do they win if they win the Prize Fighter tournament?
$50K and a title fight,
nice.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. All right, before we move on to that, excuse me, let me tell you, everything in our merch store is on sale right now. That'll be sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. The code is football. It'll get you 10% off all their gear, not just the MMA Gambling Podcast gear, not just our sticky shirts and our Tuesday Night Miracle shirts and our mugs and our hats and all that good stuff, but all the SGPN gear, like my SGP hat I'm wearing currently. So check all that stuff out in our merch store at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. 10% off if you type in football as your code. And college football kicks off this week. Tune into Sports Gambling Podcast and the College Football Experience for Week 1 picks. And if you want to know why this is Week 1 when teams already played last week, I think it was the last episode.
You're looking for you're looking for Week 2 picks now because Week 1.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Week
Saturday,
2, yes.
my man. You can tell how much my boy here, Jeff Fox, loves him some college football.
Saturday's a football day. Today is Sunday, and Saturday already happened. That's the days of the week, right? Saturday comes before Sunday.
That's how they go. Yep.
And it's Sunday. Sunday is not the start of the week, right? You agree on that, even though the calendars claim it is. It's Monday, right?
I don't really think of them as start and finish.
No.
But,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Time means nothing to you? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, I mean it's nebulous.
It's true. Listen to this guy. It's nebulous. All right. Before Gumby confuses people with more big. We got an MMA audience here. Cage Warriors Fighting Championship. I'm insulting my fans again. Glasgow, Scotland. The home of my grandmother. I'm not sure if she's from Glasgow, but Scotland. September the 7th, which would be this coming Saturday. As I told you, 12 Eastern noon starting time. UFC Fight Pass, 14 fights. Gumby's picked the 5 that he likes the best, and then we'll give you some bonus lightning round action to cap things off here. We are starting off with a fight, right? Yes. It is a welterweight fight. Sean Clancy Jr. from Scotland versus which Aronov is this again? What's his first name?
Rafael.
Sorry, there's multiple.
And this is the reserve fight for the prize fighter tournament. Too,
okay,
which
cool.
is part of the reason why I picked it.
All right, cool. Aronov. Where are the Aronovs from?
They're from Israel.
Israel. Okay, yes, Israel. Israeli fighter versus a Scottish fighter. Reserve fight, 170 pounds, and we'll tell you about Aronov first. The Cop is the nickname. 6-5, 2 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's finished everyone, and he's been finished in every fight except one. He's been knocked out once, submitted 3 times. He owes his rounds. 2-1 in Cage Warriors. The reason I don't have all his nationality info in front of me is it's a short notice fight. So short notice, Hapology hasn't even updated their page yet. So, excuse me, he's stepping in a short notice here. He's won 4 of his last 5, including his last fight via submission. Regional champion, used to fight at 185. Clancy, 4-0, 3 knockouts, 1 submission. So he finished everyone. So these guys definitely owe us some rounds here. 2-0 in Cage Warriors. Used to fight at middleweight as well. 10 years younger than Aronov, an inch taller. No odds yet have dropped for Cage Warriors. They usually drop mid. Cage Warriors come out actually a little earlier, right? Than the midweek.
I might expect him on like Tuesday or something like that.
Okay, cool.
Wednesday probably at the worst. This one's tough for me to guess odds because there's like factors in both sides that make me think that they might favor somebody. So like Clancy is undefeated, which usually goes a long way to becoming a favorite, but he has only fought 4 times. And so like has a wild disadvantage in terms of experience here. But then again, he's so much younger, which is, often a pretty good sign. Aronov's taking this on short notice. I'm going to say I think Clancy is a slight favorite because, that is starting to build up the amount of things that you see on that side. Undefeated, not on short notice, younger. And we're just seeing kind of experience on the other side. But I am going to take Aronov. And the reason I don't think that Clancy could be too big of a favorite is because I think if you watch him fight, I think the skills clearly favor Aronov. Like, I really like how he strikes from range. I do think he's sometimes hittable, but like, I think offensively from range, he looks pretty darn good. As soon as he gets into boxing range, he lands really well. And for me, Clancy, he's a guy who I think kind of needs takedowns, particularly in this fight, but in a lot of his fights in order to win. And if you look back at his other fights, a really low level of competition that he's hitting these takedowns in, and you can see some flaws in the way that he shoots takedowns. Like if you're, looking at most people who are, higher level in the world of MMA, shoot a double leg or shoot any kind of takedown, even a single leg, they lower their center of gravity. They lower their body almost down to a knee, and then they do a penetration step. But if you watch Clancy, he like closes the distance first and then drops down, which it makes it really easy for somebody to get an underhook on him. And it makes it really difficult for him to get really low on the takedown. It makes it really difficult for him to get under the hips or onto the knees or anything like that. And I think against a guy like Aronov, who does have pretty good takedown defense, I mean, he trains with his brother, Ellie, who has got really nice takedowns. Like, I think that's a nightmare for Clancy. And as a result, I think most of this fight takes place on the feet. And I think Aronov's the right play if that happens. So I'm going to take Aronov with the idea here that I just don't feel like Clancy can consistently get those takedowns.
All right. What do you hope to get him at?
I mean, again, I think Clancy, if he is a favorite, like this wouldn't surprise me if it was a pick 'em or if like the books looked at a little film and Aronov is like a -150 favorite. I mean, I'm hoping to get any plus number next to his name, to be completely honest, because I think he's probably still a value at -150.
Yeah.
But like, I think there might be a chance we sneak this one into the underdog realm.
All righty. And now we're moving on to a tournament fight proper. This is the semifinal fight. Bourama Camara from France versus Marko Kisič from one of the Slovaks, probably, right? No, from
Latvia. Latvia, right?
Austria, actually. He's listed as Austria, but yeah, There you go. You don't know any better than I do, for a change. This is welterweight, 3 5-minute rounds in the tournament, as I mentioned. Kisič, 10-4, 3 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's been knocked out 3 times. This is his debut. How's he stepping in? In injury, I assume? Both these guys actually. No. This is just a one-night thing. Excuse me. Yeah. Never mind.
It's a fun little tournament.
I told you my faculties aren't with me. This is his debut in Cage Warriors. He's won 4 of his last 5, including his last fight via submission. He used to fight at middleweight, 2014 Pro MMA debut. Camara is 7-3, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out once. This is his debut as well. Won 2 straight fights before that. He lost 2 straight, and he's gone 3-3 over his last 6. 1-2 in Bellator. 5 years younger than Kisič, probably, right? 3 inches taller.
So I'm guessing this one comes in as a pick'em. If you watch the last prize fighter, a lot of the tournament bouts came in pretty close to even money, and then the sides kind of got bet to start until one guy was like -140 or something like that, or +130 on this side. So like, if you think your guy maybe isn't the favored fight, maybe just wait a little bit. But bottom line is I think you get a pretty good line to start. I'm gonna go with Camara here if it is a true pick'em. I like the height and range. You mentioned he's 3 inches taller. His arms seem much more than that. He's got a really nice long jab. I don't know necessarily that I love like his straights and stuff like that. But the other advantage he's got is like, if you're really far away from him, and you think you're kind of safe, you're not, because he's so much taller than the average fighter. And then in addition to that, when you do try to close the distance, he's sneakily kind of a good wrestler. I like the way that he takes the back on, like he likes to get in on the legs, not finish the takedown up against the cage, and then come out the back, and then work his way up the back, or work his way from a takedown from already having the back. And he's pretty darn good at that. And if you watch Kisič, he too is maybe somebody who would prefer to wrestle. I don't know necessarily that he's as crafty. I also think maybe, hey, if the wrestling negates, I like Camara's jab here. I also do think Kisič here is a guy who has shown a tendency that when his wrestling gets stuffed, he tires. So if he is the initiator here in that grappling realm, I think Camara is probably just going to stuff a couple and then just start picking them apart on the feet. So I like Camara here. Again, thinking probably a pick 'em if you get it right when it opens. And, he should be able to impose his will here on Kisič.
Getting you some good value picks right off the bat here with maybe 2 dogs even with Cage Warriors. All right, before we move on, speaking of dogs, Underdog Fantasy Pick'em gives you a chance to win 1,000 times your entry as I go through puberty with my voice here. Or you can play best fantasy football the right way with Best Ball Mania, which is live right now. $15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. Any future picks or anything that you like, Gumby?
Well, yeah. So as you know, as a giant football fan, which you certainly showed off last time, Thursday night football, we're going to see the Ravens and the Chiefs. That's right. Football finally here for the most part. And so then I'm going to say he just got signed to the Chiefs. I know we're getting a return of Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going to say the higher than on his receiving yards. I think they are wanting for a receiver, and he's the type of guy who could possibly step up and catch a big one.
All righty. Catch a big one is what we're all about here. All right. We sign up with our code MMA SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. All righty. Ladies and gentlemen,
do you know who Juju Smith-Schuster is?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I know funny names. He's got a funny name. He's one of those guys that catches the ball, right?
He is one of those guys who catches the ball.
He runs and catches, and sometimes he doesn't catch because they don't throw it to him. But yes, I know that. All right, welterweight fight. This is in the tournament as well. Omiel Brown, who I believe I called Oatmeal Brown last time we talked about him.
You did. You very much
disrespectful of me. Excuse me. He is from England. I'm so funny. He's fighting Henri Lintula. He is from, what is that fight? Finland. We don't see a heck of a lot of Finnish fighters, but these guys are the other half of the one-night tournament here in the welterweight division. Let's tell you about Lintula first. 8-1, 1 knockout, 7 submissions. He's been submitted once, so all of his fights have ended within regulation time. So he owes his rounds. This is his Cage Warriors debut. He's won 3 straight fights, all via submission. He's not fought since April 2023. He has not lost since August 2020. Used to fight at middleweight, 5 inches taller than Brown. Brown is 7-3, 4 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's finished everyone, and he's been knocked out once. So he owes his rounds as well. All those fights have taken place in Cage Warriors. Lost win over his last 4. He won his last fight via submission. 4 years younger than Lintula. And as Gumby breaks this down, I'm going to run it off camera and let the dogs inside because they're getting rained on and they're not happy about it. Okay, go.
All right. Yay, mute your mic, you goober. He couldn't hear me. He already took his earphones off. So for those of you still at home, you know what? I have the power to mute his mic, so you don't have to listen to his crap. For all of you still listening here, I like Omiel Brown in this fight. Again, most of these tournament fights, these prize fighter fights, wind up with pretty close odds, but I have a feeling this one might be the exception. I think we might see Omiel Brown come in north of 170, negative 175. The reason why is if you look at Lintula, you know, I think he's kind of a one-trick pony, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, but really at the bottom line is this is a guy with really, really good jiu-jitsu. I had to unmute your mic. I muted you just in case
I'm back now, guys.
You were making weird noises. He's kind of a one-trick pony. He's a guy who's got really, really good jiu-jitsu. Anytime he's gotten near somebody's neck, he's been dangerous. But look, on the feet, he's a liability, an absolute liability. And for Omiel Brown, he's like not a bad wrestler in the first place. And so I think as long as he's using that wrestling in a defensive way here, between the pressure he brings on the feet and the fact that Lintula, like I said before, is really bad striking, I think Omiel Brown should have his way any way he wants on the feet here. So again, these prize fighter lines have come in very close in the last tournament at least. I think they're aiming for that again here, but I think this might be the exception. If I had to guess, Omiel Brown north of negative 170 here, and I'm still definitely going with him.
All right. Oatmeal, always a good choice. Fills you up, healthy. Good choice, Gumby. Good, healthy choice.
Sure.
Yeah. The dog did not like getting rained on. Sorry about that. All right. What are we going to next? It's the service dog, though. He should have just sat there and took it, right? They're not supposed to bark, but no, not our service dog. Our service dog does whatever the hell he wants. Are we to the co-main event already?
We are.
Wow. Just like that. All right. Co-main event time, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. We're going to make him make picks for all the other fights. Chris Bungard, you may know about this gentleman. We have spoken about him before. He is from Scotland. Artūrs Leisāns. Have we talked about him before?
We have, yeah. I think I weirdly threw support behind him haphazardly one time, and I think he might have been a lightning round pick, if I'm being honest.
Okay. He is from Latvia. This is
There's the Latvian.
Yeah.
I knew there was a Latvian on there.
It's a lightweight fight, 3 5-minute rounds. All right. Leisāns. Is that how you say his name?
Leisāns, yeah.
Leisāns. 9-8. 9-8, yikes. 7 knockouts, 1 submission. Knocked out 4 times, submitted 3 times. 0-1 in Cage Warriors. He's lost 2 straight. Before that, he's gone 1-3 over his last 4, so not so hot. Submitted in both his past 2 fights. Used to fight at welterweight. Multiple championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Get sticky with it. Football will get you 10% off. And yes, Latvians have mantles, I assume. The bad guy, Chris Bungard, 19-9, 5 knockouts, 10 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted 4 times. 3-2 in Cage Warriors, 2-1 over his last 3, 4-4 over his last 8. Won his last 5 via submission, 2-3 in Bellator. I don't know why I said it like that, but it did. Bellator has missed weight before. Multiple region championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Football is your code. Jeff's going a little loopy. I warned you at the starting, everyone. 2013 was Mr. Bungard, the bad guy's pro debut. All right, you take it away.
So Bungard is a guy who's been around forever here. he's got a huge bunch of fans out there. And I think this is a setup fight for him. If he comes in south of -150, I'll be shocked. Or a 500, I'll be shocked. Never mind 150. If he comes in south of 500, I'll be shocked. I would say if you watch all of his fights and you're like, hey, what is he good at? And you just say he's grimy. He's a guy who makes every fight nasty as hell, either through having moments of just like brawling with people or having, just the tendency to like grind against the cage and throw a whole bunch of knees and just wear his opponent out. Like he is just a guy who wants to turn every fight into an absolute dogfight. And here against Leisāns, I think the biggest issue with him is he's just got no takedown defense. Like I watched one of his most recent fights and his opponent slipped and fell down. And as he fell down, he like almost accidentally took Leisāns down and then wound up with top control time. and like, it's crazy that could happen. And in this fight, Bungard is going to bring that type of game to him. Bungard is a guy who wants to bring that grind. He wants to bring that dirt. He wants to bring that nastiness to the fight. And since he wants to do all of those things up against the guy who literally just can't take it, I'm going to take the guy, even if he's -500, no matter what that number is, to get it done. So again, Chris Bungard here, the pick. Is it going to be anything that's remotely playable? Definitely not, but that doesn't mean I'm not picking.
All right, Bungard is the pick. And where do you think the number is going to be at?
-500. I mean, if we're lucky, like this could be one that comes in. Did you see we have a UFC pick this week at -2300?
Have I don't think I've looked at the UFC odds.
-2300 right now. Like it won't be that high, but like if it got up into 4 digits, I wouldn't be shocked.
Can I guess what? I can't even remember what the fight card is.
I interviewed the fighter who
okay.
is betting off at -2300, and I got a chance to ask him about it.
All right, fantastic. I'm sure UFC fighters love to talk about gambling nowadays, right?
They do. They are interested when they're like either big favorites or not big favorites. Yeah.
All right. Before we move on, let me tell you about Rhythm, something I have nothing of today on this podcast, Rhythm. Have you ever wanted to create your own sports betting model for football? Do you even know what a sports betting model is? That's kind of talking down to our listeners. Of course they know. They're a bunch of degenerates here. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom and predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me. And Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. The Rhythm college football model loved Delaware State and the points. Week zero, I guess that would be. See, I'm catching on. Build your own model and get ready for week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and week 4 and so on. College football. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. But you'll need a time machine if you actually really want to get prepared for week 1 because it's over. I know these things. I'm a big
get ready for week 2, my friend.
Get ready for week 2. I'm a big college football fan. All right. Main event is a title fight. It's for the Cage Warriors Lightweight Championship. It isn't vacant. It isn't interim, so I don't have to ask Gumby any questions here.
It's just George Hardwick being a beast.
It's just George Hardwick being a beast. He's already defended the title twice. He will be trying to go for successful defense number 3 here against Cristian Iorga. Hardwick is from the UK, aka Great Britain, maybe, or the UK. I know it's different. Versus Iorga, who is from Romania. 5-minute rounds if they need it. We'll tell you about the challenger first. Iorga, 7-1, 3 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out once. He's making his debut for Cage Warriors in a title fight. Won 3 straight fights, 2 straight via finish. Has not lost since September 2021. Was regional champion. Used to fight at welterweight. 0-1 as a pro grappler. Hardwick, 12-2, 5 knockouts, 3 submissions. Never been finished in a fight. 6-1 in Cage Warriors and the current champion, as I said, with 2 successful defenses under his belt already. He's won 8 of his last 9, but he did lose his last fight, which was on the Contender Series, and was to
Kareem Abdul-Al-Sawadi.
Yes, he got upset by him. Correct. All right. 2-0 in Bellator. Used to fight at welterweight. 5 years younger than Iorga, 3 inches taller.
This is another setup fight. Similar to Bungard. You could probably parlay these two together and get like negative 300 odds at the end of the day. Like this is a negative 600, 700 kind of favorite here. Iorga, look, it's clear what he wants to do, right? Like he wants to kind of be a bully and wrestle and get it wild. And maybe some people think that that's a threat to Hardwick after what Kareem Abdul-Al-Sawadi did. But like, Iorga just has so many problems with range for me up against the guy who is like that might be his best attribute, right? Like George Hardwick's ability to like pick people apart from range and hit them with devastating shots. Like that's what he's good at. And if you look at Iorga, he has like a lot of trouble when people crowd him. He wants to strike from range, but then when he's at range, he has a lot of difficulty figuring out what that range is. You know, he overextends himself heavily and opens himself up to counters. His kicks come up short. I watched him in his most recent win get absolutely floored by a head kick because he didn't realize he was in range. He wound up wrestling his way out of that. But like, that's kind of what we're looking at here. We're looking at a guy who's like, man, I hope I can wrestle this fight for 25 minutes. But then again, I'm not even sure his mentality is there. Maybe he thinks he can strike because he does more than he ought to. I think every minute he's on his feet with George Hardwick is a bad idea and a liability. I'm going to go Hardwick here. Again, I would be shocked if this number came in a place where anybody felt it was playable, but Hardwick's the guy here.
All right. What's the best you think you could get it at?
Look, if it posts at negative 550 and then gets bet up, maybe that wouldn't shock me. Like sometimes you see the bet online ones come in right around there. Yeah. And if it does, I would say, maybe you could squeeze him in a parlay and extract a little bit of the juice out of that. But he's going to be a heavily rightful favorite here.
We used to throw him in parlays. Now we're squeezing him in. All right. So Hardwick is the pick. Let's recap and we'll get to the lightning round. Hardwick, Bungard, Brown, Camara, and Aronov. Am I right? I'm right.
That's right.
All right. Lightning round. Crash, bang, boom, zap, pow.
So Reese McEwen's on this card.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Bungard in Hardwick might be wild favorites. Like he might wind up there too. But I am a fan of Reese McEwen. So I'm going to say, I have no idea what the lines are yet. They're not out for us to manipulate. But I'm guessing he's a big favorite. Regardless, probably some value to extract on Reese McEwen there. Maybe throw those three in a big old giant parlay and see if you can get it in the realm. I was
going to say, throw them in the
parlay. if you do all three of them, you might get in the realm of even money. And if you can get those three down to even money, I'm in. We'll say that about Reese McEwen. The other one I'm going to throw out there, and I'm pretty sure I've picked this guy 400 times on this show, despite only having 7 pro fights, is Callum Parker. Callum Parker is a guy who is only 3-4 in his pro career. I want to say he was 2-3 when he fought for Octagon, and then he came out and won a fight in Cage Warriors last time, and we had him as a decent sized underdog at post time. And I'm on him again. Look, I think this is a guy who has some of the most atrocious takedown defense I've seen in a really long time. But in a boxing situation, he's above average especially for a guy who's 3-4, but for any regional level prelim type guy, his boxing is far and above a lot of those guys. So if he's worked on his takedown defense at all, and if his opponent makes the mistake of striking with him for any period of time, I think Callum Parker is always playable. And who knows, with a record like that, you will probably get him here at plus money.
All right, there you go. You're all set for Cage Warriors this coming Saturday. In the meantime, we shall be in the Discord hanging out. Come hang out with us. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Of course, we're on Twitter, SGPN MMA. He's Gumby Vreeland. I'm Jeff Fox Writer there. I'm Jeff Fox Writer on Instagram as well. I have a Substack. Get in there. Enter the pick'em for this week's UFC. That would be moneymma.substack.com. Thank you for your support there. Gumby, support Gumby's other podcast, the Top Turtle MMA podcast. He drops it every week with interesting guests. Do you know who's on it this week, or is it up in the air, or is it?
So one of the guests is still a little bit up in the air. I'm waiting to finish up a second interview for it, but one of them is a negative 2,300 favorite. I'm talking with Isaac Dolgarian, who will be negative 2,300 favorite against Brandon Marat this week. So get his take on that by listening to the Top Turtle MMA podcast.
All right, check it out. And of course, we're at the mothership, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store is the place to get geared up. Remember that football is your code there. And sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon to get some bonus content. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Octagon 60. How's Octagon 60 looking, Gumby?
I mean, all Octagon cards are bangers. So this one I'm looking forward to.
I just realized we had the bad guy and the cop on this fight card we just broke down. So we'll be back tomorrow. It'll be the bad guy, Jeff Fox, the cop, Gumby Vreeland. We'll talk to you then.